All right, here we go. What's the one, son?
We live.
We live in here.
We live. Wait, whoa. This mic is kind of.
How's that?
We gotta make it sure it's straight.
Okay,
Are we live?
we're live.
It's crazy.
Alright. Yeah. All right.
Ooh, first podcast.
Honestly, it's kind of it's different. I'm used to like listening to podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's different being on the other side because now we have to like create something and I can just kick back and listen. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yo, I'm hella nervous.
yeah, and that's fine. You know what we did? This is what happened before the podcast, right? We were literally talking about. I forgot what we were talking about. Then John, we're just in the office. I'm editing. John's like editing. And then somehow we just take a break and then we start talking. And then he's just like, yo, let's do a podcast today. And then I was like, fuck it, let's go. And now we're here. And the good thing with that is I feel like that shows a good part of just kind of like doing it, you know, taking action. And this is where we're at. So, you know, it's not going to be the best. And that's fine because at least we're doing it. So,
Yeah, no, I feel like so many people they want to do something, you know, and they think so much of like how it's gonna go, the planning of it, like how am I gonna do it, you know, whether it's your first YouTube video, your first TikTok, your first, you know, going out and taking a photo, or your first art design, whatever that is. I feel like people are just like always like overthinking, you know, and not really doing it, you know, because like this podcast, you know, I've been wanting to do for months now. I've had plans. I was like, yo, I want to do this. And there's always something that comes up and I just go, I'm going to put it off. But I told myself, you know what, like, we're going to do it now. You know, let's just set it up and do it. Hit record, kind of like just go out and just do it and see what happens.
see what happens. Yeah.
It's the best way to do it.
There we go. So, I guess we didn't really have, you know, we just thought about this today. So, we didn't really brainstorm or anything. Like I said, we just kind of just went for it, took action. So, I think for the first segment, as far as like what we're going to talk about, would be good to kind of get to know who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Maybe talk a little bit about like, you know, like taking that first step, you know,
mm-hmm,
and then we'll kind of like translate that to like how our story, you know, is as well.
mm-hmm.
So like with you, Mark, kind of share a little bit about yourself, man.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, um, born and raised in Las Vegas. I've been freelancing for about a year now, exactly a year, which is crazy to me because I've always had a job. I never thought freelancing was like in the cards for me. Not because I didn't think I could do it, but it was just like, you know, that's just how life was, you know? Like you're supposed to go to school, get a job when you're 16 because you're old enough, drive a car, go to college, finish college, you know, the whole nine. And for me to like live without like a traditional job is like something I never thought I would do, but I'm happy I did. I'm seeing like the struggle of it, and
Cause you went to college.
I went to college for a couple of years.
You dropped it. You dropped out.
I dropped out.
Nice.
Um,
What made you like drop out?
So the reason I started college, right, was because that was a normal thing to do, right? And the route I chose was something that I did out of convenience of being, you know, living here in Las Vegas, which was hospitality. I was like, hey, I don't know what I want to do in college, and we had the best hospitality school here, so fuck it, let me just do hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was like getting deeper into it, I was like, man, is this something I want to do for like the rest of my life, you know?
Right.
So I asked that question and it was no, I didn't want to do this. And so I kind of like put 2 years into doing it and then switching it up. And then I kind of like didn't know where direction I wanted to go to after that because that was kind of like plan A. I didn't really have a plan B.
Mm-hmm.
And then plan C came about, which was the military. So I joined that, hoping I could find something I wanted to do within the military that I can translate into the outside world. After doing, you know, the military, which is an electrical job, being in it and actually like putting my hands on it, it's it's a good job that you could learn and like provide on the outside, but it's not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life neither. And somehow between all that, I discovered filmmaking and fell in love with it. Found out I could actually make a living doing it. So that's kind of like where I'm at.
So when you dropped out of school, like college, like was it because of military or was it because of like film?
Um, it was I don't know. I don't. There was really no like key moment dropping out of college to do like
Did
one
you
thing
feel
or
like
the
it was
other.
like a waste of time?
It was just I just didn't feel like signing up for the next semester. I was just looking at the classes and it was like I don't know if I'm gonna do this.
Dude, it's crazy because I feel like so many people out there are kind of going through that similar situation where, like we're trying to figure out what we want to do in our life, and we're going to the college, getting ourselves into so much debt,
Hmm.
and we're at college like figuring out like what is it that I want to do after college,
Hmm.
and that's kind of like how I felt too, because I went to high school after high school to college, and after like during college and stuff, like I was kind of like undecided. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college, and I was like, maybe I'll do film, because it was like I feel like many people go through two different routes. The first route is like, okay, like I'm gonna do something that like is like a high paying job or a job that like is very secure, and there's another one that's kind of like your passion or like a hobby, and you're not sure how you can like make a living doing it, you
Hmm.
know. And for me, that's kind of how it was, because I was like, maybe I'll go business, but then another part of me was like, man, I love filming, but I wouldn't know how I would be able to translate filming into like making money after college. But I took that leap of faith and was like, you know what, like I think if I'm gonna go to college, I want to have a good experience. I want to go into film. That's what I did.
So
You know.
what made you see like filming as a way to make? Because for me, like filming, I used to film in high school. Nothing like serious or anything. Just kind of
Hmm.
like messing around with my friends, making funny videos, and I just never thought of it as like something you can make a money out of. So like, what was that moment to where you were like, oh wow, I can make a living off of this thing I love doing.
It's so weird because like for me like like I never like I'm sure so many people out there feel the same way, and I felt the same way at the time. Like I was doing it for free. I was just going out there and creating. I was filming whatever I could, whether it was with friends or whether it was like skateboarding or anything I could get like film my film on, like I would do that. And like I never really thought like when I was at the time like, hey, like this is something I could like make money doing. It was just like I had fun doing it, and like it was just a passion. But I felt like as kind of like time progressed, like just by putting out work, people reached out to me and was like, hey, do you shoot this? And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And they're like, yo, like I'll pay you, dude. And I was like, really? Like I can actually like get paid to do it? Like I didn't really like there wasn't a really key moment where I felt like, okay, I could do this for a living. But I think it was just because like I always believe that you do your best, you put stuff out, whether you're an artist, whether you're a filmmaker, a photographer, anything that you're doing. I feel like if you do your best, you strive, like soon enough like your work will show for itself. You put out good work, and I promise you like sooner than later like it won't go unnoticed. Don't worry about the numbers, about how like like, oh man, this video didn't do well in engagement. But I felt like through time like it's just gonna just kind of happen, and everything's gonna fall into place, and you're just gonna be like sitting there like, how did I get here? You're not gonna really question it.
Yeah.
So it's cool, it's cool. But same for me, I'm a filmmaker, for those who don't know. I've been filmmaking now for 10 years. I'm born and raised in Hawaii, and right now I'm just kind of like doing filmmaking in like the music industry. So I'm doing like filming like electronic music. I do weddings, on the side, as like more like a side gig kind of thing. But yeah, I just have fun, and I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to this podcast might be in a situation too where they're just like scared to take that first step into like what they want to do. And it's kind of cool because me and Mark here, you know, um, we took that leap of faith of going, hey, like let's actually pursue like our passion. Let's actually go out there and like do what we love. But yeah, here we are today. So that's a little background of us.
Yeah, that's crazy because a lot of people talk about what they want to do, but it's another thing actually doing it. And sometimes people just don't have this. Our situations are different. Like for both of us, we don't have kids. We don't have like a big family. We don't have. I'm not saying it's not we don't have the same risk as others because everyone has a different kind of risk. It's just that you know, I know I have a buddy of mine who has 3 kids, and he has a family. He has all the stuff that you're supposed to kind of like have that secure job with, but he still didn't stop him. So I think it's just more so kind of like just making a commitment to doing your best, and obviously with the plan in mind, strategic plan to kind of fall, not really necessarily fall back on, but just to make sure drop everything and you know you could what I'm saying, like you don't want to just blindly go into it, but you kind of have to kind of like take that risk too at the same time. And sometimes you just have to learn as you go, and that's honestly the best way to learn is literally just as you're going, because you could do all the planning, like we said earlier in the episode. You could do all this planning, all this research, but at the end of the day you're going to learn the most by actually doing it. So
And I hope that this podcast is a testament of that
yeah.
because me and Mark, when we kind of like hit record on this podcast, we didn't really know like we didn't have like a plan, like we just speaking off like our hearts and our minds. And we're kind of like this is like new to us, like being in front of the camera because we're so used to being behind the camera, right?
Yeah.
So so if you're out there listening in and you're just like, man, I'm scared. Being scared I think is like a good thing.
Yeah.
Like I think that you're doing the right thing if you're scared. If you're scared to like take that leap of faith and go, I want to like pursue this. And I think that, like I think like for us like with this podcast, like we're just kind of like two guys that's like, hey, let's start a podcast. I feel like we have a lot to share. I feel like there's a lot of people that can relate to us that's like out there like, man, like is it possible? And we're here to tell you that it is. It's not easy, but it's possible.
Yeah, and don't ever feel like you don't have anything to share that's of value to someone else, because the way I learned it was whatever you're doing, whether that's filmmaking, pottery, anything that you do well,
Pottery.
pottery, like anything, like it's not all just about filmmaking, photography, like anything, what I'm saying, like if you're good at whatever it is that you're good at, right, there's always gonna be someone that's a step below you that would be happy to hear what you have to teach them. Hey, we're gonna start a pottery episode
No,
for
no.
this.
Hey, if you're out there doing
Yeah.
pottery, by all means,
Oh.
I don't hate on that. I just think that the way that Mark's mind had to think of something so random, he goes, if you're out there doing pottery,
Check out this pot though, like it's a nice pot. Yeah.
it's a nice pot. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like, you know, you just gotta, you have something. You have something. Like we both have something. Like 10 years seems like a lot to someone, and 10 years seems like, oh, you're just getting started to someone else. So whether you feel like you have something to offer or not, I guarantee you do. And don't be afraid to share it with someone else. Because there's people out there looking for exactly what you know, and you know,
Yeah, no, I think for me the one of the biggest things is like I think support system is real. Like did you feel like when you're kind of like dropping out of college and like at that time I'm sure you were kind of in this moment where you're like trying to figure out like okay, like what am I going to do next, right?
exactly.
Did you have like a strong support system? Like did your family support you doing that?
Um, I didn't really say like, hey, I'm dropping out of college to do filmmaking. Like it didn't really happen like that. It just kind of like whether or not they supported me or not, I knew what I wanted to do, and I just kind of went for it. And I knew that, you know, me succeeding in whatever I wanted to do would be enough for them to believe that like, okay, he made the right decision. Obviously, as a parent, you want your kid to like finish college and stuff like that. I know my mom did, but at the same time, it's like I know what I want, and I know what is best for me. And college for myself was just not the best option for me. And at the end of the day, I know my parents would want the best for me. So I kind of had to make that decision on my own. You can't rely on someone else to make the decision for you. You kind of have to know like from your heart and from your mind. And obviously, you have to be capable. You have to be good at what you're doing, right? And I guess support system was like just friends saying, as far as like video goes, like they liked the videos. They said, you know, it was good. It was more than just me liking it. You know, other people, they were digging it too, and I was getting paid for it. So a mixture with that, kind of just everything kind of just fell into place, and then you know parents started taking
Yeah,
notice.
I think so too. Like, if you're out there and your parent doesn't really support you, dropping out of college, and by all means, like me and Mark is not advising anybody here to drop out
No,
of college.
nah, yeah.
I think that college is a great place to network. I think it's a great place to be. It's awesome. I think it's if you have, like, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be anything that is, I think college is definitely a good place to be. Because for me, like, what I took out of college is like the network. I felt like I surrounded myself with good, positive people that I met through college. Some of like the best people I've met is probably through college, just because like it was like I'm from Hawaii, so I feel like being from Hawaii, like we're in a small island, a small community, and finally branching out to here in Vegas for college, I kind of was like put in this position where like I was surrounding myself with like people from all over the world, and I was like, man, this is crazy. But then I think that within itself made it worth it for me, just the networking and just meeting new people, and I feel like also too living the college life.
Hmm.
I feel like living the college life was kind of nice. Like I feel like I actually got the college experience that everyone talks about, which is really really freaking cool. So if your parents out there don't support you and you're kind of in this 50-50 decision of like, hey, I want to do what I want, but at the same time like my parents don't support me. Obviously like we're not saying jump off the boat, and swim to land. But what we're trying to say is like we support you. We know what it's like to kind of take that leap of faith and take that risk of, is it worth it? Like, yeah, is it worth it? Like, is it worth losing, sacrifice? Is it worth sacrificing a lot for? You know what I mean? And to me, it is worth it, 100%. Because I always learned, man, that I rather, by the time I'm 50 and I'm 60, I rather look back and be like, hey, I did it. I took that leap of faith. I took that chance. And if it didn't work out, hey, at least I did it. Knowingly that I did it instead of going, man, like, what would have happened if I did?
Hmm.
Like, I wonder what would have happened. And I think that's what many people, out there are kind of going through. And yeah, so, with this podcast, I guess for us, like, our plans with moving forward with this podcast is we plan on just kind of covering, like, all areas of, like, from being a freelancer, videographer, to kind of like mindset. And what else do you think we should cover with this podcast?
I think the goal of this podcast is to, for me, I like to help, you know, people that were in my shoes, you know, prior to where I'm at right now, because you know, podcasts helped me out, kind of growing, you know, all these like tutorials on YouTube, like different forms of education outside of just college, really helped me a lot. So if I could kind of pass down what I know to someone else and like kind of help them out too, um, you know, that would be very fulfilling to do. So that's another direction that we can go. So yeah, like you said, mindset, filmmaking, freelancing. So you know, pottery if you want to talk about pottery or something. But you know, just as long as you can help, as long as you can help, you know, someone else, or you know, just whether that's you know through like education, entertainment, value, whatever it is, you know, just to let you know that hey, you're not alone into you know thinking what you are, because you know, I'm not saying that you know we're the same people, but you know we've been there too. So that's kind of that's the direction I want to go with this podcast. So
Cool. No, I 100% agree. I think we're onto something here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, if this first episode is rough, hey, bear with us. We're learning, like we said. We literally just came up with this. Not we didn't come up with this idea today. John said earlier, this is something he's been wanting to do for a while. This is something that's brand new to me. I'm pretty open to the idea, and so far, I like it. It's pretty cool.
It is cool. I think it's cool because I was once in a position like you, listening to just a podcast, sitting in a car, sitting on a plane, just listening to other podcasters like Joe Rogan and Breakfast Club and stuff like that, and finally being in a position where I can speak. Like, I feel like you said, like, I have a lot to share, and hopefully that somebody that's listening to this whether we have 100 people listening or 5 people listening, if we can impact one person, I think that's like more important to me than the large numbers, and that's key. So I think, yeah, we're gonna be doing the next podcast, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, we'll come up with a name and all that stuff. We'll come up with a little bit more structure and more topics, but um, you know right now we just went for it and here it is. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Any last words, John, before we head out?
Make sure to share this podcast with friends, because we're going to be coming out with some interesting topics in the future that I'm sure that a lot of people out there are wondering. And, if you're listening to this on Spotify, make sure you add it to your playlist, save it, share it, and we'll be seeing you guys soon.
Cool. And make sure you follow our webinar and sign up for our courses. No, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
All right, guys.
Peace.